5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire. The only thing we have to fear is fear.
Mile 18.
This is Endurance Nation.
Free resource alert. Did you know that Endurance Nation created the 4 keys of racing execution? That's right, the seminal framework that people use to put structure into an otherwise unorganized and chaotic race day. We created it back in 2009. I've been honing that process ever since across all manner of sport and work as well. Our athletes use it in all aspects of their lives. It's an opportunity for you to use a framework that boils down the most complex situations into critical steps that you can follow and prepares you for the challenges that exist on race day. We have this framework. It's available for you. It's free. You can actually go online. If you go to endurancenation.us/4 keys, that's all written out, FOUR keys. You'll get an opportunity to download a free resource that explains the 4 keys to you, including a video from me, Coach Patrick, outlining how you can use it and opportunities to access even deeper resources down the line. This is your chance to break out of the chaos. If you've had bad races, messed up races, made simple mistakes, really wish when you cross the finish line that you can get that 30 minutes back, now you can. Plan ahead. Get the 4 keys at endurancenation.us/4 keys.
Endurance Nation.
Hey everyone, Coach Patrick here from Endurance Nation, back with another Coach Podcast race execution-based episode. Today, I'm talking to you about race execution when you travel abroad. Ironman Nice, the World Championships in Nice, the first men's only championship in Nice ever, and the first time back in Nice for a World Championship in a long time, happened this past weekend. And we saw some really interesting come out of the race at the professional level for the men, and also some great stories and feedback from the age groupers. We were fortunate enough to have 2 athletes who competed at the World Championships, which was fantastic to follow their journey and hear about the terrain, the course, and everything that went on in the context of Nice. But it was a good reminder for me as a coach, and I think for other members of the community, to understand that when you're working to be successful in a race, it's a function of how you perform in the environment you're in. And one of the things we take for granted here when we race similar races, there's only so many Ironman races in the North American schedule, dwindling in some cases. And as a result, your experience is not a carbon copy, but it's pretty close. Year to year at Lake Placid or year to year at Arizona doesn't vary that much. And you have this opportunity to repeat. But the value is in the experience, the value is in the fun quotient. And that leads a lot of people to take on championships or to travel, be it to the great island of Hawaii, which has been the Ironman home for World Championships pretty much since its inception, or going abroad and participating in other events as well and taking on different competition. Traveling abroad brings with it great upside, not just new food, new adventures, new friends, new opportunity, new competition, but it also brings great challenges. And I'm not just talking about did my bag make it from the airport at home to the airport here in France or in Austria or wherever you may be. And so what follows here is just some quick guidance for you for the pre-race execution talk and the post-race execution talk. And this is based, I had to go back. I've got like a medal archive. I've got 2 stands hanging either side here. I'm not the kind of person who's going to show them off, but I did bust out this medal, which was back before they made like enormous medals. This one is only like 1/16 of an inch thick, whereas today medals are like 97 of these put together. But this will be Ironman Austria 2005. I did this with my then fiance, a fantastic race, had a great time in Europe, did the race, and then traveled France to see the Tour de France. Definitely not recommended for those of you who are raising your red flag right now saying, what, do an Ironman and then travel? How could that go wrong? It was terrible, not just from the fatigue and discomfort of post-race, but also from the logistics of having all of our gear. We had a huge bike box and not a lot of huge bike box portaging means of transportation in Europe, although it is a great place to get around and have fun. So here we go. The pre-race execution things you need to focus when you're traveling. And when I would say travel is pretty much anywhere that it takes you just about the better part of a day to get there. So you're far enough away from home that it's new places, new things, etc. Okay, so the number one thing you need to think about when you're doing race execution, when you're traveling abroad, is the logistics around your equipment. So most people end up having to either ship or bring their bike with them. And in either case, there's a period of time where your bike needs to be admitted and needs to be non-functional until you get to the place where you reassemble it. This is by far the most stressful and logistically challenging part of your race. Some people just outsource it and pay lots of money. Other people DIY it and buy a box and do the whole thing themselves. Wherever you fall on that money versus time a continuum, you really have to make sure that you plan enough time to do it. For example, if you're traveling on Wednesday for a Saturday race, you don't want to take your bike apart on Wednesday morning. You don't want to take your bike apart on Tuesday night. I'd recommend taking your bike apart over the weekend before. That extra time gives you wiggle room in case you lose a part, something goes wrong, or you mess up, right? You don't understand the super technical concepts of your bike. You've unwired the decoupler from the inverter and the AFib is now decortexed. If that happens, then what are you going to do, right? You got to call someone, time for that to be okay. And so time is your friend in terms of the logistical components around your equipment. The next piece is making sure that you are actually functional during this last week. And being functional, you've done all of the training you need to do. And this last week, getting into your faraway race is really just around the logistics. Maybe you do a half hour of something in the morning, a short swim, a short bike, go to the gym and spin on a spin bike. It doesn't really matter. Go for a short jog, a nice hike, something to stay active. But this is not a training to peak scenario. There's too much other stress going on to also bring in the need to juggle workouts with your travel regimen. Believe me, I've tried. It doesn't work. It's not good for your fitness and it's not good for your travel, especially if you're traveling with other people. So do the math accordingly with your training so you have this week going into your race to just know that you can focus on the logistics and getting yourself to the race. That in and of itself is the most challenging part. And then the third and final part that I would tell you pre-race is identify the nutrition on site and either test it or create an alternate plan. This is the earliest step you'll take, ideally 6 to 8 weeks ahead of time. The nutrition will be posted on the website, or you can look at past editions of the race to have a good sense. Most races don't turn over nutrition from year to year. If they're here in the US, you could probably get your hands on what the stuff is. If it's not, you may not be able to get it shipped over from Europe, but you have a good sense. In general, you always want to make sure that your nutrition plan is bulletproof. And that means not only the timing and the fuel types, but also your ability to consume that food. And when we change the flavor, when we change the consistency of your fuel, that can often be very disruptive to your nutrition plan. For most athletes, I recommend taking the stuff that you drink and consume here, and we create a version of that plan you can execute over there. Bring your powder with you. We do a concentrated version of it. For example, when I raced in Cozumel or Cabo, one year, I didn't want to be drinking the nutrition on course. I wasn't 100% sure about the water quality on course. So what I did was I had a concentrated bottle. I took a huge bottle, not a bottle here in my hands right now for those of you watching on YouTube. I took a bottle and I basically said, okay, how many squirts can I get out of this bottle? So I was like, I can get 12 squirts out of this bottle. Okay, great. I can get 12 installments then of my nutrition inside each one. Right. So if I did 12 servings of my nutrition inside here, knowing that 2 servings is basically one bottle, which is half an hour, that gave me 6 bottles, which gave me 3 hours of nutrition inside this bottle. So I was like, okay, this bottle contains 3 hours of nutrition. So I could put that on the back of my bike and be like, I'm going to take this, do 1 squirt and add water in the front, and then I'm good to go. So I can just know that I'm mixing this in the water and I've got my nutrition for a bottle off the front. So do that nutrition and concentrated plan to get sure. You'll also probably end up carrying stuff. I don't have a version up here, but I often race with a hip pack, which just clips on the front, has a zippered pouch in the back. I can put all the foods and things that I want inside there. Allows me to carry lots of food on my bike. It doesn't have to be attached to my bike. I can just clip it around my waist super easy, probably slightly more aerodynamic anyway. So the nutrition piece as well. So number 1 is the bike and getting logistics sorted. Number 2 is making sure that you've really got the training dialed in so you can be focused on what you do in the week. And then number 3 is getting your hands on the nutrition and creating a nutrition plan that you can practice leading into the race. But what about on the day? And this is where the rubber really meets the road. So I'm giving you a 2-for-1 here in this episode. So I hope you're tuning in. Racing abroad, racing in a new venue brings with it all sorts of different feelings, different weather, different sensations, different roads, all the things that we expect. And we're like, oh, new roads, I love it. New people, this is great. But then we also simultaneously fear, like, new roads, people are going the wrong way. New weather, like, this is too hot, too cold. New places to ride. What's with these mountains, legit straight mountains like in Nice? What happens when we get into those places? So part of your race execution plan needs to take into account the conditions and what's going to be happening on the day. So inside a Endurance Station, our athletes write a race plan 4 weeks before their race. They practice it twice through each simulation, getting feedback from the team, and then they go execute. So by the time they show up on race day, they've gone through the race, if you will, both on some level physically, although modified for a race simulation, and then mentally twice. So that by the time they get to the race, they're a veteran. They've made changes, tweaks, and they're ready to race. This moves you several steps down the line taking 1 or 2 races of full caliber to move you 5 or 6 experiences down the line in terms of quality of ability to get better. That's how we accelerate your personal best here inside Endurance. It's a combination of the physical work and the scheduling, but also the logistics, the writing, the mental aspects with the social feedback loop. That's super important. All right, so when you're getting into these new environments, what are things you need to be aware of? So in this case, I'm going to talk specifically about racing in Europe so you have a sense, okay? So number 1, the swim is the swim. Most athletes in Europe can actually really swim. The competition level in Europe is much higher, generally because these athletes have to be fairly serious. There's lots of other great sports that are very popular that take a lot of time and attention. So if you're in a triathlon, you're in a triathlon. It's not like it's something you picked up last week and decided to do it. So these folks can really swim, and there's no qualms about swimming next to each other and swimming on top of each other. And for me, racing abroad, it was very similar to what it's like racing in Kona, and that the compete level is super high. It's not like it's here in the States where people are pretty chill about the swim, although you maybe get some bumping. In Europe, it's on from the start of the race. So it's really important that you're comfortable with your open water swim technique and you take the opportunity to get down and scout out the venue, as challenging as that may be. Number 2, these athletes race from the gun. Racing in Europe and the style of racing in Europe is very different. There isn't a lot of like, I'm just going to go steady all day, or this is a catered training day. For most athletes in Europe, it's we are racing until I can't race anymore. Hopefully I can make it to the finish line, but if I can't, then I'll just suffer till I get there. But the speed is actually very fast at the beginning and slowly descends across the day. That's what happens when you're in Kona, which seems people say that's how Kona is. Really, that's how most of racing in Europe is. And Kona is dominated by athletes from across the world, not just here in the US. And as a result, you see that same vibe when you're abroad. So you have to be ready for that. You have to understand that if you're a moderately good swimmer, but you're not a highly competitive swimmer in terms of mixing it up, and you're not an Uber biker, the odds of you getting out of the water, being in the middle to the back of the pack, and then having everyone ride away from you are pretty high. They'll come back to you later in the day, but not all of them will. But that's just the nature of racing. So understand what other people are going to be doing around you, and then plan accordingly, either from the mental aspects or then how you're tactically going to operate in the day. And then the third part of the thing that I want to tell you about international racing is about the bike course itself. Bike courses in Europe are just built different. There's sort of 2 flavors. There's like the mountain, really challenging, lots of ups and downs, lots of actual real proper bike riding terrain need bike skills, which a lot of us don't have in the States, or they're like super flat and super logistical because they don't go super far and are really well organized. So you are on either side of the scale there. Yes, there are some races in between. I get that. But for the most part, when you get up to that higher level, it really becomes a function of how can you maintain this course, not just from the work climbing like we saw in Nice with 7,000 plus feet of climbing and the day over 2,500 meters, but the descent as well. I remember racing in Austria. They had a huge DJ, which was fantastic, and lots of energy and fans on the climbs. But at the same time, we ended up having to go down some of these descents through villages where the road was literally, I think a horse-drawn carriage might have flipped inside that space. The villagers came out and just set up like old mattresses and bales of hay. It's clear that whenever a race comes through here, this is just the stuff they drag out of the barn to put on the road so people don't ride into their barn or their house or whatever it is, or over their cobbles. It's legit. If you have an opportunity to preview the course, which can be challenging when you are racing abroad or in a new venue, I recommend that you do it. But otherwise, make sure you have fantastic brakes and you've done a great job working on your bike descending and bike handling skills. It's going to matter when you're on these courses. Otherwise, you're just not going to feel comfortable. Forget about speed for a second. Just feeling comfortable being able to race. There's nothing that takes you out of the race game faster than not being sure if you're going to live/crash through this current section of your day, whether it's hiking along a ridge, swimming in alligator-infested waters, or like crazy chop, or descending down super steep, technically challenging roads like the Tour de France, which looks great when they do it. But it's a different matter altogether when it's you or I. All right. So those are my 3 things: pre-race and race execution-wise. Both aspects of the race execution mantra that we have here inside the team. If you want to learn more, go to enduranceNation.us/4keys. That's FOURKEYS. 4 Keys is our race framework that we use to not only educate athletes about what performance means, but becomes the model that they take with them on race day to handle all the different challenges. You can learn that model, capture it through our lessons, and make sure that you are ready to be the best in your race. Whether you're doing a triathlon, or you're doing triathlon like I talked about today, or you're doing ultra running, gravel racing, mountain bike racing, whatever it may be, the 4 Keys is the framework that we use and we recommend to everyone. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I'll be back soon with another episode. Everyone take care, be safe out there, happy travels, and fast racing. See you.
Endurance Nation.
Product of the week is our Race Saver bag. Stay cooler, race faster. Have you ever been in a race? You pass an aid station and then you can't wait for the next aid station. As a runner, you're just craving it. Even though they're only a mile apart on the road, it seems that each one is getting further and further apart. What if you could take the ice that you had at that last aid station and carry it with you? Not in a cup, not clinking around, but in a handy bag on your wrist. That, my friends, is the Race Saver bag. It takes advantage of your physiology where your body generates a protein that actually signals to your brain that you're cooling off. It happens in the core of your hand. Professional athletes use this, and now you can too. You can't race in the heat without managing your core temperature, and now you can. It's the Race Saver bag, and you can find it online at www.mile18inc.com/race saver. That's mile18inc.com/race saver, all one word. You can get your bag now. Hey, get two. Share one with your friend or your loved one so you make sure they also have the race of their life. You don't slow down, and you make everyone else jealous out there on the race course. Get a Race Saver.
For more information about Endurance Nation, visit us online at endurancenation.us. The provided music is from the Podshow Podsafe Music Network. Check it out at music.podshow.com.